thank you for joining us. Good morning again. We are left with 27 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm still with Papa Ricky from BODA, discussing the BODA BODA industry.
Intentionally, he decided to change my name.
Okay. Now, let's talk about, I was mentioning the issue of affordability in the industry.
I'm happy you changed your English word.
from the other one that I was using. Okay, let's use the affordability part.
Yeah.
Issues to do with affordability. I would want to imagine, as a business person, it looks more veloce to me. If someone tells you you can get a safe border from Garden City to, let's say, Nigeria, at let's say 5,000 or less, and then my usual border person asks me around 7,000 or 10,000. So if someone is looking for the other option, they will definitely go for the affordable one. But you as a business person, how do you make money out of it?
So reality is business is built for the people, with the people. And usually natural feeling is that when you, and this is also reality, when you move across the world, in different parts of the world, people, transport is supposed to be affordable. Actually, in the real primary English, it's supposed to be cheap. Transport and healthcare is supposed to be affordable by everybody. Because this is part of the belief by the community that this is something that should be provided for by government. While actually, people provide good meal, good clothing, can charge as much as they want, but people who are in the transport sector, you don't have that that luxury that much, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of other things that are more urgent to people. And in the transport industry, you really need to make sure people can enjoy it as much as possible. Now, what we also studied and realized, especially in the transport sector, border to be specific, is that the time of a borderman is split into three. That the borderman spends 30%, and traditional borderman, not a safe border, a traditional borderman spends 30% of his time waiting at the stage. He's just seated. If you walk outside, you'll find them seated. That means they are not working. But then someone has to pay for that time that they are seated and not working. Please take note of that. You have to pay
for that time.
For that time, he's been wasting waiting for you. Then another 30% of his time is spent taking a customer on a trip. This is now, he's been waiting, a customer has come, so he has to take you to where you're going. Now, if you come and say, I want you to take me to Lugogo from Smart 24 TV, he'll have to charge you for the time that he's been waiting, and he has to charge you for the fuel and the time that he's going to use to transfer you from Smart 24 to Lugogo. Now, this is the third part of his time. The third part of his time is that after he has finished dropping you, he's not going to wait there to get another customer. He has to ride back to his stage.
For another person.
To wait for another person. So another 30% of his time is spent on that waiting, on that return trip. So you have 30% at the stage, 30% on the trip, 30% on return, and maybe 10% on family calls and maybe lunch and stuff like that. Now, whatever you pay, you're actually only supposed to pay for 30% of the time, which includes the fuel and the time that he's going to spend from maybe Smart 24. What usually makes the trip higher is that you have to pay for him for waiting for you, being a nice guy who has a stage and is waiting for you. You have to pay for him for transporting you, because he has to pay the owner of the bike. If he has a loan, he has to eat lunch, he has to buy fuel and stuff like that on that trip that you have taken. And you have to pay for him for his time and fuel that he's going to use to come back to the stage to get another customer. That explains why actually people end up paying more when they walk to a stage, which is not a bad thing though. This is traditionally what you actually realize, and I think you must have also done this before Safe Border, is that sometimes people used to walk and then they see the stage, then they pass the stage, and then they
wait for yes. By the way, this one is more cheaper. It is actually a myth which isn't written anywhere. If I told you to go for an affordable BODA, you don't wait for one at the stage.
Yes, and the reason
is for the one that is actually moving into your direction.
Yes, the reason is that person is on a return trip.
Heading back to where he staged.
Yeah, so even if you pay him or not, he still has to go back.
He wasn't expecting. True.
Yeah, so this is actually a discussion, let me actually into on that. This is a discussion I even had with some of the border leaders in the community. You know, they kept on telling me, you know, there are a lot of Lobianzas on the street. And so I asked them, because I was in the industry, I was a rider myself, I actually left my stage sometimes to look for business as well. I asked them, but who is a Lobianza? That a Lobianza is someone who comes from the village and doesn't have a stage. So I asked them
he's just moving around.
Yeah, so I asked them one simple question. So what happens to a borderman who has a stage, who has dropped a customer and is coming back, and he sees a customer in front of your stage and he wants to take the customer because the customer is going on his way?
He's heading.
Isn't that also Lobianza? And then they're like, I think we do that. But I said, okay, if you do that, are you a Lobianza? He said no. I said, then you're misinterpreting the whole thing. You know you're not a Lobianza, but anyone who is nearby your stage, who does not belong to your stage, is a Lobianza. So what is a Lobianza? A Lobianza is that legit border guy who is on a return trip and is passing by near your stage because you don't like him.
And he gets the potential customer.
Yes, he gets a potential customer. So that's why when we look at our pricing, it's much more affordable. We try to blend and make sure that we're not as high as other people want us to be, but we're also not as cheap as other people want us to be, and we want to make sure we are as affordable as possible. And the trick is here, that our safe borders, of course, we recruit people who have been in the industry for at least 2 years, because the aim is to improve the lives of those who have already been in the industry. So once we recruit you, we train you, and we know you have a stage. So for you to be part of us, you need to have a stage, and it's important. But what happens, and this is the magic that actually people have not been able to understand, and that's why some people say, you guys are too affordable, or you're cheap actually. The magic is here, that with the help of our platform, that when you take a safe border from Smart 24 to Lugogo, when you reach there are actually other customers who are using the same platform to look for a safe border. So the other time, when you reach Lugogo, there's a client, right? And we actually show them. So customers immediately when they end the trip, they can receive another ping. And this has happened to many people. Like immediately when they arrive, they get another ping. So instead of them riding back to the stage, they get another business and move into another business. Then maybe that business is going to maybe Kira Road or to Acacia. They go to Acacia. Then after maybe they get another business, going to Safe Border Academy. Maybe after they get another business, going to Nigeria. Maybe they get another business, going to Entebbe. And you get to realize that a Safe Border spent his time very, very engaged, very, very busy and working. And that means that the cost of fuel is highly reduced because you're always on the move, and every time you're riding, you're not riding for free, but you're riding with the customer. So that means no matter how it's not what other people are charging, but you're able to take care of your cost and able to make money. And that's why actually our drivers earn more than the other drivers on the street. Our drivers earn an average of around 45,000 shillings a day, which is much higher than what the rest of the other individuals who ride on their own actually earn. And we have also seen that our drivers get to ride more customers, an average of around 10 to 15 customers a day, which is a very good thing and keeps them very engaged. And we think that this is the right way for us to go.
Now let's talk about the riders that are actually attached to Safe Border. I do believe you mentioned earlier that some border borders would make around 50,000 on a good day. There's a lay border person who is not actually working with Safe Border. Now, in an event where that person, the particular border guy, works with Safe Border or with any other platform,
I think a border guy who is not attached to us, I think, could earn like 30,000.
30,000, not 50.
Not 50, because their time is really, unless otherwise you're a very lucky man. But for us, we see that 45,000 is a normal thing for our Safe Borders.
So if you were to draw it back to you, someone who's attached to your brand, how much can I make some good money? Because if I'm looking at a situation whereby the prices are quite affordable, less than we expect from others, now on a day one would still question. I think the brand needs to have its percentage on, and then even the same border guy needs to have his percentage. If you're to break for us the percentages and you say the company takes this percentage, the border person takes this percentage, and this is how we help these people at least earn from their hustle.
I think for the last 8 years, we've not been able to make any money from taking commission from the border riders that could buy us a building in Kampala. Maybe it can buy you a small border, one or two, but it's not anything that could buy us maybe a luxury car or a luxury suit.
To boast around.
To boss around.
Okay.
Because really our aim from the onset has not been to make money, but to help our people prosper. Of course, we're a business as well.
Yes.
And the public understands that we at a certain point we need to make money.
Yes, you're a business as well.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's a question of time. When you invest and move with people in the right direction, you'll be able to make the money. In terms of percentage, legally, according to our understanding with the drivers and what we agreed on around 2015, is that SafeBODA is supposed to take 15% of the total cost of a border ride. Unfortunately, that is not happening right now because of the unfortunate reality in the industry.
You're short of that?
Not that we are short of that, but you need to grow the industry.
Okay.
This is why you should also be aware that some of the global giants that came in the industry failed mysteriously. And I think some of them packed their bags and ran away. I think actually you should remember that around 2018, you had like close to 10 other companies, and I will name them. You had like City BODA that had an app. You had Kambe that had an app. You had Zoktu that had an app. You had Dial Jack that I think had an app. You had Yellowbird. You had Uber. You had
Bolt.
You had Bolt, Taxify that became Bolt. Plus a number of others. I might not be able to remember. But literally all these people, I don't know where some of them are, but it looks like the industry has not been very fair to them because a lot of people came with the aim of thinking we can easily make money from the industry. If you look at what are riding...
The charges would speak for themselves for most of them.
Yeah.
You know that this person is here to make the money.
And you get to realize that most of them were asking for an average of 25% from a border rider.
Who's not receiving clients?
It's almost impossible for you to get that. Today, as we speak, we're supposed to take, I think, 15%, as I mentioned to you, legally, and we don't want to go beyond that. Actually, we're going to go lower, because from what we get right now, I think we only take, could be 5%, because the 10% we reinvest it into giving discounts to the customers. So instead of charging you all the money, you get to realize that we're giving back to the customer. So we don't
marketing strategy.
Yeah, so we actually don't take any money home. Whatever we supposed to take as a percentage, we give it back to the customers. Today is a Monday. It's a beautiful Monday. We're giving all our customers 40% discount on the ride. That means even if we take 15% from the driver, we need to add maybe another percentage, maybe another 25, if that's a correct figure, for us to be able to meet that. And we're still growing the business with the people. It's extremely expensive. It's very costly. But we think that together and with the help of every Ugandan, we'll be able to achieve that. And also continued partnership, with government, with Smart 24, with every other person there, other businesses, we'll be able to build this product and continue to move this product to the next level. We are more interested in long-term kind of strategy where we build this stuff together and have people involved and listen to them so we can build a much more sustainable business. Probably we can, I also want to use this platform to say this, that SafeBODA has grown to become the #1 ride-hailing app for motorcycle taxi in Africa. Okay. So when people see us here, they shouldn't see us as only Ugandan brand. First is we are national pride. Two, we are a continental pride. And I think we are beating the odd and reassuring that Uganda is a part of Africa, but also Uganda can become the part of innovation. And I think we should be proud of that and be able to promote that. It's Bubu, buy Uganda, build Uganda. Okay.
Now, Ricky, I would want to know of how the fuel prices that are actually high right now. Very high. Fuel, diesel shooting 5,500. We've seen petrol at 5,600 in most of the areas.
You should have said it also shot 10,000 because we also bought at 10,000.
Okay. If you're okay at that time,
at that time, yeah.
If you're to look at these fuel prices, how has it affected your industry? Has it in any way made it more difficult for your BODA BODA riders?
For our SafeBODA, it's been a very hard situation. I think much more harder, especially for the company, because there were two groups of people. So you have the customers who are aware that the fuel prices has risen, but their income has not risen.
Yeah, the salaries have not risen.
The salaries, yes.
So it is.
So our bosses,
they're not willing to adjust.
Our bosses didn't go up and say, because the fuel prices have risen, let's increase the pay. Let's increase the pay. They didn't do that. but we still have to drive the cars, we still have to use the borders or the taxis, and these guys kind of increase their prices based on that. And food commodities and everything have literally been affected in one way or the other, but then our income has not changed. So that's a real situation for you to deal with, that you have these people that you want to serve, their income has not changed immediately. Now you have the drivers who actually know that the fuel prices have risen, because someone who used to use 3 liters in a day and maybe would pay 10,000, today is paying 15, 17, 18,000 shillings for the same amount of fuel. That means the gap is actually going to lose, because you need like 3 liters a day to be able to operate your business. So you have these drivers who are saying, our costs have gone high, so please increase the price of transport, because we need to be able to make more money. The fuel is expensive, you know. Now, so such a situation calls for a very innovative approach. So the first thing we did is we partnered with Ruby's, and thank you to the team at Ruby's, that we were able to provide fuel at a much more affordable price to our drivers. This is the cost that the company took. You know, I think today people are buying fuel at what, 5,500 or, yes. But our drivers still buy fuel at 4,500 shillings. Because Safe BODA has stepped in to discount the prices for our drivers, so that they are not...
That is with Ruby's? With
Ruby's, and they pay using cashless. And this is strictly to our drivers, not to the rest of the public. But then to the rest of the public, you can still buy fuel from Ruby station using the cashless wallet, and you receive a discount of, I think, 100 shillings from the board price, which is still a good one, especially for those who want to take bulk fuel. Okay. So when we did this, we're stepping in to make sure that we're able to control and not have a lot of price disparity and changes all the time, because we care so much about our customers, and we also appreciate the feedback from our drivers, and we are to step in. So that's a huge cost that we stepped in, and we're able to take it up. But in general, the fuel price and the fuel rise has provided a very interesting opportunity. And I think we need to be more aware that the future is being tested today. And now most of us are trying to look at how best we can solve this problem in a much more long-term way. So we are looking at electric bike as the perfect solution for some of these challenges. And we're in talks with a number of companies, so that possibly we can transition our riders into electric bikes and keep the city much more cleaner, less noisier, and much more smarter, and also promote the smart city agenda.
I know the conversation we've been having, you mentioned something to do with meeting up with the ministry and all that.
Which ministry?
I want to know more. If you happen to meet some of the government officials, I would want to know, as we're looking at the way forward for the growth of the sector, mainly the BODA industry, which the government is planning to regulate more. There were actually discussions back then when the government wanted to actually eliminate the borders of the CBD so that they can operate from the outskirts of Kampala. But if you're to look at in the interactions you've had with some of the government officials, has it bred any improvements, or is it really any positivity in the few years to come?
So there has really been that discussion of moving the borders out of the city.
Yes.
And I think that's the last thing any government that is legitimate and democratic would want to do. And I give you an example here that from the beginning I said BODA owns and accounts for 15% of Uganda's national GDP. You have over 5 billion that is being transacted in the BODA industry in Kampala every single day.
Quite a number of people employed to that sector.
When you look at how much fuel we consume every day because of the work that we do, you have each BODA taking at least 3 liters of fuel every single day. And you have a little bit over 1 million borders operating beyond Kampala. And if you look at the cost, especially in terms of tax that government takes from that, because there's what they call direct and indirect tax. So for me, I don't want to hear anyone telling me that the borderman does not pay tax, because we already pay tax. Every single day we are operating and fuel is being sold, we are actually generating tax for you. We are paying. We are paying. Every time the borderman is using airtime and data to make calls and use a platform, is paying for tax. Every time a borderman is withdrawing money through the Safe BODA wallet, is paying for tax. So sadly, I really don't agree with people who say bordermen don't pay tax, because I know they pay tax. And that's one.
They pay more indirect taxes.
Yes, which some people don't want to. Some people here,
indirect taxes are very many.
And most of these people, and most of these people keep telling you that these men don't pay tax. They don't pay. but then they eat the money that we give them because we are the ones who facilitate their lifestyle, right? But then they keep telling you the bordermen don't pay tax, but then they get free fuel, free transport, free accommodation, free security. While the borderman does not get any of that. Free insurance, they get it. The borderman does not get any of that.
He has to pay for everything.
Yes, and the money that is used to facilitating all that is the money that we bring that is collected through indirect tax and direct taxation. Oh. So some of this discussion are somehow sad, especially when you get the people who are talking about it. Yeah. So I was saying here that is something, that is the status of the industry and how big it is. You have a country where 85% of the population are young people. These are people below 35 years. And you have a population that, because of this young group of people, you have maybe a few hundreds of thousands that graduate every year from different universities. And more than half of them limited. Get into the waiting list. They don't have jobs available to take them up. That means there's a lot of redundancy. And I want to tell you, two plays a big role in our lives. One is agriculture, the biggest employer of young people after of young people. But who talks about it? Who is so proud about it? You know, who is so proud about the employment that this industry brings? It's a question, it's a topic for discussion. The second biggest employer of young people after agriculture is the border industry. Is anyone surprised about that?
No.
Did anyone organize and say, you know what, we want the border industry to become the second biggest employer of young people? No one. It happened by default. Tough situations call for tough measures and tough moves.
And now they want to trash it out.
Now, if you come to a Kampala city where you have maybe over 200,000 borders and you say you want to trash them out, the thing is, we don't have any problem with you flashing them out, but where are they added to?
Okay.
You know, and this is a discussion we've been having, that the border, literally, let me finish this actually. Sorry, so that I'm fighting back to say this, but this is a very important thing, that border has been in the center of the development of Kampala and many other cities across Africa. If you look at the lifestyle of every businessman, including even you as journalists, there's always a border in the mix. You've seen that the head of state was one day on a border. You've seen ministers and high-level people on.
It makes life easier.
It makes life easier because there's that gap that the borderman is filling. So instead of saying we need to push them out of the city, unfortunately, the people that say they want to push the borders out of the city, they never even brought one border to the city, right? Borders brought themselves into the city because there was a situation that called for that. Okay. Because I usually tell people that instead of wasting your time and saying, I want the borderman out of the city, why can't you just organize the transport system of Kampala and make the borderman jobless? No, if you provide a better option, a better option than the border, we'll have no job. We'll move to where there's an opportunity.
Okay, Ricky, in the next 3 minutes, as we're summing up with our discussion now, I would want you to help me mention something to do with safety measures. How can the border industry be safer? Because one of the reasons as to why the government had actually delayed to reopen the border industry after the economy was reopened was because of safety issues.
No, I don't think it was because of safety issues.
That is according to what the statement came through.
No.
One of that security purposes.
Don't promote that. Don't promote that.
Then second, I would want you to as well give us your final remarks and what else you have in store for the people. We only have 3 minutes to go.
Okay. So I really think that one is there's a lot of narrative about borders and insecurity in the industry. Yes. But I also believe that it's unfortunate that has become an easy way of saying borders are bad people. But I really believe that the border industry can be safer when the following is done. Okay. One is that border needs some sort of representation, some sort of leadership in a way. You know, border industry is so big that it's even unfortunate that they are not being, we don't have budget allocated to them, we don't have clear planning for them. Government even lacks who to speak to, especially when it comes to the border industry. So at a certain point, border industry will need some sort of a representation in a more political way and a more business-driven direction, where a lot of issues at national and local level can be discussed with empathy and with facts on the table. That's one. Two is that the border itself needs to organize itself into some sorts of grouping And this was clearly stipulated in the Road Safety Act Amendment 2020 that was done in March. That clearly stipulated the BODA BODA should be organized either in some sort of a company, in some sort of SACCO or cooperative association, in some sort of a CBO, depending on how they choose to organize themselves. But it should be organized in a way so that you actually you don't want to find a BODA BODA man who is riding and is on his own. You know, it becomes difficult to negotiate and promote the interests of an individual, but it's much more easier and safer to promote the industry, the interests of the industry. But it's extremely difficult to promote the interests of the industry that is extremely segmented and disconnected in its allness. So I think, yes, it's also important that the BODA BODA organizes himself in some sort of association, organization, company, or ride-hailing platform, depending on who and how they choose to do that. But I think that's like the way to go. And we've been a leader in this space where we have chosen to organize our borders, train them, and also the last
sorry
thing.
to cut you short though.
Yeah.
Lastly,
training is fundamental. For anyone who is joining the BODA BODA industry. Yeah.
Your final remark.
I just thanks to you and the management at Smart 24 for giving us an opportunity to appear here. And I also want to thank the rest of the public for continuing to support us and staying with us. And I also want to thank the government for being our good partner and for continuing to work with us. I wish you all the best. Remember, today is a 40% discount on Safe BODA Ride. Please download the app and make best use of it. Save on our platform and earn 10% annual interest. Thank you.
All right, then, thank you very much. And I don't know who manages the social media, who sends us those messages in the morning and in the afternoon. Anyway, they're doing a good job for lightening up our days. But anyway, that has been our discussion today. We're heading into this third hour of the show. Thank you for joining us. Good morning. I'll take a break. I will be right back. I don't know who said